Greetings. My name is Bill Browder, and I'm delighted to be addressing the Budapest Forum today. Sorry I can't be there in person. As those of you who may know me would understand, Vladimir Putin has been chasing me around the world for many years. I've been sentenced to 18 years in Russian prison for my work creating the Magnitsky Act. Putin hates that more than anything. And because Viktor Orban is a close friend of Putin, it wouldn't be safe for me to come to Hungary. So I'm sorry that I have to deliver this address by video, but I'm there in spirit. The topic of this panel is Ukraine after the war. And I want to share with you my own personal thoughts about how we deal with rebuilding Ukraine. When I first saw Putin launching his murderous war, like every other decent human being, I had a very visceral emotional reaction. It felt horrible, it felt scary, it felt awful, and I wanted to do something. And many other people have had this reaction, and many people have done many different things to help Ukraine. There are doctors and nurses that have gone out there. There's mercenaries that have gone out there, people supplying equipment, medicine, etc. And I looked at what I could do, where my unique skill set might be able to be helpful. And my unique skill set has been that I've spent the last nearly 15 years working with parliaments and governments all over the world to freeze the money of Russian human rights violators and kleptocrats. The legislation that I've been working on is called the Magnitsky Act. The Magnitsky Act was passed in the United States in 2012. Canada, the United Kingdom, the European Union, Australia, Norway, Iceland, Kosovo, Montenegro, various places. In fact, 35 countries have the Magnitsky Act. And so I've spent the last 15 years effectively trying to freeze Russian assets, and we've succeeded. And so when I saw this war starting, I said to myself, Putin has now caused unbelievable damage. As of today, it's estimated to be well north of $1 trillion. And a week after the war had started, roughly $300 to $350 billion of Russian central bank reserves were frozen by the central banks of the West, the allies. And so it seems to me that probably one of the most important things we could be doing right now is taking that money that's been frozen and give it to Ukraine for their defense and reconstruction. And so as I look at what's my unique skill set in this whole discussion, well, since I've spent so much time talking to lawmakers about freezing money, it shouldn't be that much of a leap to talk to lawmakers about seizing that money. And so that's what I've been working on. And it hasn't been an easy project. There's a lot of people who don't want it to happen. Of course, Putin doesn't want it to happen more than anything because he doesn't care how many soldiers he loses, but he would sure care profoundly if he loses his $350 billion of reserves. But interestingly, there's a lot of Western governments that don't want this to happen. I've had various meetings with the US, UK, EU authorities, and everybody is kind of sitting on their hands. They're saying things like, there's no precedent for this. This wouldn't be legal. Various things like that. And I've studied it, and there is precedent for this. This is the Germans after World War II paid huge reparations. Iraqi funds were used after the invasion of Kuwait, and various other places. People say that Russians' central bank reserves are protected by sovereign immunity, but for all legal scholars out there, that's actually only half the story. They're protected by sovereign immunity unless other laws trump that. And the law of countermeasures, which says that if a country does something terrible to another country, there are countermeasures. and that trumps the law on sovereign immunity. So I believe that there's actually a legal argument to be made for doing this. And of course, there's a moral and political argument to be made for this. The moral argument is that Putin broke it, Putin should fix it. And of course, the political argument, which is probably the most important argument, is that everybody in the West is now starting to grumble a little bit about taxpayer money going to support Ukraine. And there's an easy way to bypass that grumbling, which is before we put our hands into our pocket for more money, which we probably will have to do, we should let Putin pay for it with the $350 billion. So as we talk about reconstructing Ukraine, I think that before we get anywhere in this conversation, we should be talking about the first person to pay for it, and that's Vladimir Putin. And I hope there are some in this audience today who will agree with me, and I hope that those who have the opportunity can put pressure on their respective politicians and lawmakers so that this becomes a reality. Thank you very much, and I hope you have a great conference.